Hey, what's going on, sports fans? This is Sean with BoxingandBasketball.com, and we're back with the hostess with the mostest. I'm just messing with you. He's not a hostess, just a straight up co host. We got Matthew Rayner. What's going on, Matthew?
Hey, it's my favorite part of the day. I drove home from work going about 90 miles an hour just so I could get here and talk basketball with you, Sean.
Yeah, let me tell you something. This man loves basketball. I think he eats, breathes, and sleep basketball.
Hey.
Watch out, Stephen A. Smith. This man is coming to take your job.
Well, at my own job, all I did was look at basketball today, so no one tell my boss.
There you have it. All right, so Matthew, as we know right now we got the Pistons versus Cavs game. Let me pull it up. Let's see what the score is right now, up to the minute. Pistons 45, Cleveland 42. 3 minutes left in the second quarter, so it looks like this is going to be a pretty good game. Then right after that, we have the Lakers versus the Thunder. I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's start off. Topic number one. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they're still alive. They came away with that win the other day. They avoided a 3-0, being down in a hole. Donovan Mitchell went off for 35. James Harden hit some clutch shots down the stretch. Matter of fact, Cleveland went on a close out a 13-5 run, and they ended up winning 116 to 109. K didn't do too bad. He, his second career playoff triple double in game 3 he had 27, 10, and 10, but it wasn't enough because on top of that, he had 8 turnovers to go with it. But the Cavs were left for dead after game 2, right? I'm looking like, geez, are these guys, are they overmatched? Are they going to be able to make anything happen? They got Spider, they got James Harden. Mobley. They got all these good players, right? So I was like, man, like what is going on? But now they're in a game 4 win from, tying it up. So my question is this series flipping back to Cleveland's favor, or did Detroit just have one bad night on the road, Matthew?
Hey, it's I think one slow game on the road. Sometimes we're watching a boxing match and a guy will win 7 rounds, but then he'll lose round 8, round 9, and then go back to, dominating again round 10, 11, 12. It just take the foot off the gas a couple rounds. I think Detroit, took the foot off the gas. We always knew in game 3 they were going to get Cleveland's best. James Harden, who has been playing awful for most of the series, really stepped up, hit some big shots. Donovan Mitchell, dominant. Everybody else was just okay. I mean, if you're the Pistons, you look at everybody, they were spreading the love. Everyone in the starting lineup was getting their buckets, but Cade in some ways, kind of shot them out of the game. There's a time and a place for hero ball, and I get with Cade that the side cast, especially in that Orlando series, has been so unhelpful to him at different times and just has given him nothing offensively to the point where he thinks he has to take over every game. But honestly, them role players, were playing pretty good. Tobias Harris was fine. He was hitting his open shots. Duncan Robinson was getting around, making some threes. Everybody was giving you a little something. Asar Thompson, he has one move, and that's, getting to the bucket on offense. If he can just speed run to the basket and get a layup, that's basically all.
He got in foul trouble a little bit early. He picked up 2 quick fouls, like within like the first 7 minutes.
It's trouble because you need him out there for his defense. But obviously he can't stay out there if he's gonna be running up the fouls. And in the playoffs, those fouls are usually well earned if you're getting called 2 in the first quarter. So got to slow it down, young fella. But anyway, I feel like Cade didn't trust the team enough in game 3. But I feel like I was just watching the beginning of game 4. I feel like they came out okay. They're gonna have to withstand Cleveland's best shot. And then, what the good teams do, start to pull away in the third, maybe mid fourth quarter. I fully expect that to happen. I fully expect the Cavs to win tonight, but I guess we'll know closer to the end of the show.
Right, and then also on top of that, Donovan Mitchell, like he really stepped up and dropped those 35 points on them the other day. And I don't know if he felt like he needed to carry the team. So I don't have a problem him scoring 35 points, but you really got to have the other players really step up and help them as well, right? But James Harden, did you see the other day when they had Shaq, Kenny, the whole crew, the ESPN crew, they were talking about how in Draymond Green was on there. I think it was Draymond Green. Anyway, they were arguing about James Harden should not be having more turnovers than he has shots that he's making or shots that he's putting up. Bro, they said that overall, like his turnover ratio has been horrendous. So it's really shocking that Cleveland was able to even pull off a win with all of that.
He's been coughing that thing up, but today he's come out good. I was just watching before we got on. He's already got 15 points. He's being aggressive. A couple turnovers, but when you've got a couple turnovers, but you also got a bunch of assists and you got a bunch of steals, he's out there making plays. And right now it's crazy because Harden hasn't showed up for some of the games, but it looks like Mitchell hasn't quite showed up yet for this first half. He's only 1 for 8 right now. So like I said, the Pistons are up 4. We're about to end the first half. We still got another half to play. Yeah. I think the Pistons pretty much have already withstood Cleveland's best shot. We'll see. Everything looks a little more well-rounded today for the Pistons. Jalen Duren got 6 points. Tobias Harris got 12. And Cade Cunningham shooting a lot more efficiently than he was the other day. Man, and Karis LeVert, you come out and get a quick 17 from your microwave score.
He came out of nowhere. Yes.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. He's leading the team.
Because they were down. They were down by like 10, like 15-5 until he came out.
Hey, you love to have a guy like that has been tucked away on your bench all year, but you need him. He can come out and get you a bucket. So, shout out Karis LeVert. Haven't said his name too many times this year, but coming through when the Pistons need him.
Right. Got you. All right, well, let's take a look, man. Let's move on to topic number 2 as the game is going to be coming up soon. The Thunder on a 3-0 run. They going for the sweep tonight. Just like the Lakers were going for the sweep in round 1 over Houston. And we know how that went, right? Mm-hmm. So the Thunder end up winning 131-108 blowout over there at crypto.com. Man, they outscored LA 41-29 in the fourth quarter and 33-20 in the third. AJ Mitchell had a career playoff high, 24 points, 10 assists off the bench for OKC. Man, you know what, Matthew? I don't think we cannot just talk about how deep OKC's bench is. Even LeBron James was talking about, the bench is, what do we do with that bench? Even he knows the bench is good, but he's like, man, we're trying to compete, but it's the bench that's, roundabout really hurting us. What do you think about that?
Man, just looking at the numbers, 44 points from the bench. Almost all those guys shooting 50% from the field, led by Case and Wallace. 6 for 10, 4 for 6 from 3. I mean, Oklahoma City really is the perfect situation because you have the best offensive player in the league in SGA. I don't know if you hear that tap, tap, tap.
What is that?
I think there's some rain falling on my space heater outside. And, and when you have a space heater, I guess you're susceptible to the little things like that. And I think the drip from my neighbor's space heater above me is falling on my space heater. So anyway, a little distracting, but in any case, what Oklahoma City has is perfect because they have the best offensive player, they have the second best defensive player, and they've surrounded them with these no ego shooters that also play defense. So you've got a never-ending list of people that can switch on defense, that can make threes on offense, that aren't going to cost you the game with their ego. You've just got Shea, you've got Chet, and you've got a bunch of other role players that have embraced being role players and are stars in their role. And then, you mix in, you just future stars, guys like Jared McCain, that deep on your bench, not even playing, when this guy, at some point could be like a 20 points per game guy. So I think Oklahoma City's been dominant, and I expect them to continue to be dominant and finish off the sweep tonight.
Right, right. So now here's a funny thing. See, you know what has been trending after that game, right? JJ Redick. First of all, we get to JJ Redick. DeAndre Ayton, right? He gave up 2 straight offensive rebounds, then a third, then he had an and one before he got pulled, right? He had finished like 10.6 rebounds, one defensive rebound in 23 minutes. He got beat by Holmgren, by Hardenstein. Hardenstein had 12 points on 6 and 7, doing better than Ayton, right? But then after that and one and then giving up the rebounds, JJ Redick, I know you saw it. He was caught on camera. You know, we got professional lip readers out here. He said, I can't play him. I can't play him. Bruh. Even I don't know if you look at Reddit. Reddit had like over 10,000 like upvotes. Like everybody's like agreeing, like, bro, y'all got to get him out of there. Then JJ Redick, he tried to walk it back in Sunday's practice when he went to the practice. He said, I know how special he is for our group to succeed. In other words, translation, the front office made me play him. What's your thoughts on that, Matthew?
You know, it's tough watching him get dominated down low by guys that, you know, he has more talent than, guys that he should be better than. Maybe not Chet, but for sure, you know, Hartenstein, he should be winning that matchup. There's a lot of matchups he should be winning every night. But every team that has him, you know, it seems like they like him at first. Like, wow, I can't believe we got this guy. And then as they start to make a run with him, whether it's the Suns, whether it's the Blazers, whether it's the Lakers, it feels like all the teams stop trusting him. But I think he'll be okay. I think he was posting pictures on Instagram of his new chain today. And
Oh
you know
my
that
God, are you serious?
the dominating chain. That's what that's what it's called, dominating. And I think you know, that chain. I'd be doing this podcast a long time to save up enough money to buy that chain. So you know, he's doing good in some ways. You know, he's fitted up. You know, he's got the chain, but the game is struggling. The game is struggling for him. And then the Lakers, man, that was one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen when they had the team conference with the referees after game 2.
Oh yeah.
Go back.
I've never seen nothing like that ever, man. Like they had a whole group chat with the refs. I couldn't believe it.
It's the softest stuff I've ever seen. Just go back to the locker room, get showered, and get out of there. I can't believe the entitlement is crazy. And you know, I don't think like these players are realizing, like, just as an average person, you know, I think average people are tired of seeing how like rude the players are to the referees. And
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong, but I do feel like the bubble they're in makes them not realize how like ugly it looks sometimes when they're just
Right.
riding them the whole game and just being rude to
Yep.
them the whole game. And it
Yep.
says, you know, they probably talk to a lot of people that way. And so they don't even realize that it's a problem. But
Yep.
when it's just constantly happening throughout the game, and
Over and over.
then just having the meeting with them after, like, I just
Yeah.
just play basketball. No,
Matthew, that's what I was about to tell you. Doesn't it make you as a fan? Doesn't it make you as a fan just want to say, man, just play ball? If they're gonna call it, they're gonna call it. If not, just play through it, man. Stop being so soft. Every little touch, blow, kiss, everything's a foul these days, man. Come on. Just play. I'm not paying all these money for these seats and paying to watch all just to complain bro. If the refs called every single little thing, it would be a 10-hour game.
Yeah. No, they got to do something about it for sure. I know all the talk has been about fixing the draft and fixing tanking, which, you know, sure, it is a problem for sure. But I think in terms of the gameplay, the flopping and the complaining and the constant just looking for fouls, I mean, it's a huge problem. And I think that's something the NBA really should look to address in the offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, LeBron James, I keep talking about, 41 years old now, just got smoked by 23 in game 3. His coach is mad at his center. His guard is fighting the refs. Is this LeBron's last playoff series?
No, I think he'll be back next year. And if they have Luka, they will still make it to the playoffs. Now, this is his last. I don't think they're going to be contenders next year. I think they'll make
Oh,
it to the playoffs.
okay.
But yeah, I don't. If you're just running it back this same lineup, and if you're going to run Luka into the ground, if you're going to let him get his way and take 35 shots a game, then maybe you're going to come to the same situation this time next year where he's hurt because he's been taking 35 shots a game, playing 40 minutes a game. LeBron's going to be a year older. Austin Reeves is good. He's fine, but I, I don't know. At some point, he should emerge as better than LeBron. He should be your second best player next year, or maybe he's not good enough to be your second best player, and that's too big of a role for him. I mean, I don't know. He's pretty efficient, but it's pretty easy to get a bunch of open shots when you have Luka and LeBron on your team. And then just whatever role players LeBron wants that year, which is still the case.
Yeah.
I mean, they still have some pretty good role players on the Lakers. It might not be the same quality of role players LeBron played with in his prime, but
Yeah.
he attracts a lot of good players to whatever team he's on. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, just if they're running it back with this roster plus LeBron a year older, I don't see them being contenders, but they'll definitely have enough to make the playoffs. So no, I don't think this is his last playoff series.
All right, Matthew. One last thing about the Lakers. What about the front office and management, right? So does Rob Pelinka survive the offseason if the Lakers get swept tonight? Or and also what about JJ Redick? Does he keep his job or do they really blame the rookie? This is his first year, the rookie coach. What do you think about those two, Rob Pelinka and JJ Redick?
No, I mean they're fine. I mean they got a lot out of this roster, especially with Luka going down. To win 50 games, make it to the second round. I think they're both fine, and I think people still give Rob Pelinka credit for the trade that brought Luka there. And all you lost was AD, who's a great player, but he's constantly injured. So I don't think Palinka's on any hot seat, and I think the league is still really infatuated with JJ Redick. I don't think he's going anywhere. In fact, I don't think either of them are on any kind of hot seat. I think people find it amazing that they even made it to the second round, that they beat the Rockets so easily. So I think the second round's enough to save both of their jobs, even if they get swept.
Right, right. All right. So let's move on to topic number 3. I've been waiting to bring this up because it's dealing with your boy Wemby. So we all know how the other day went, right? So the series is tied 2-2. The Wolves beat San Antonio 114-109 in Game 4 Sunday without Wemby for at least 75% of the game, right? Wemby got the first ejection of his career, fighting for a rebound early in the second quarter. Threw that right elbow in the Nas Reed's chin throat area. The official review it. Flagrant 2, automatic ejection. And at the time, I don't know, Wemby was on the bench and the coach is not the coach. Well, I guess it's kind of like a coach, third string coach or whatever you want to call the guys there. It's like, all right, Wemby, you got to go to the bag. He's looking like, what for? Said, man, you got a flagrant 2. He's like, what does that mean? I ain't never got a flagrant foul in my life. Bro, that means you got to go back to the locker room. You can't even stay out here. And then what made it so bad was he was like, oh, okay. But then he started high-fiving all his teammates like, yeah, I took one for the team. And up to that point, the Spurs led most of the rest of the game, right? But they finally faded down the final stretch, right? What did you think? I think it does deserve a flagrant 2, but I don't think it was intentional.
Yeah, I think I mean they've been grabbing on him all series. I mean, even on that play, if they had just called a foul, the elbow would have never happened. I mean, I'm wearing a Spurs hat, so I'm a biased source here, but I mean they've been roughing him. They've been roughing him up all series, and so.
But does it deserve a hard elbow? Look, because at first I was defending them. I told my wife, I said, Tiny, they're just trying to get Wemby out of here, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, watch. So I played it back twice. I was like, never mind. I said, that was kind of I said, Tiny, I don't think it's intentional. I said, but come on, man. You can't be throwing the elbow. Not like that.
I mean, he's so tall that him throwing an elbow.
I tried that excuse too. I tried it with my wife. She didn't go for it. She said, come on now, Sean. She said, I know he's tall because I said Tanya, he is 7'4". Everybody's like 6'8", 6'9". I say, the swing of it, but the way I looked at it, Matthew, it was, I mean, he cocked it. He had like a little 3-inch cock. Bow, let that hammer go.
He got McDaniels grabbing him on one side. He got Nas Reed grabbing him on one side. And at some point,
Oh my
you just
God.
get frustrated. You look at his arms; they're all scratched and caught up. It looks like he's been fighting roosters.
Everybody's arms is scratched and caught it. Everybody's getting fouled.
They have been fouling this man, fouling him. And he said, you know what? If they're not going to call this, then I'm going to get my money's worth. I'm going to let one of these bows go, and we're going to see who's going to be fouling me next game. I'm just thankful he's not suspended for game 5. I mean, that was an obvious flagrant 2. It was obvious why he had to leave. It would have been horrendous.
The officials, they reviewed it. They called it a windup. If he would have just swung Matthew like this, like you know how you grab it and you just swing trying to clear, it was that little cock right there, and they called that the windup. If he didn't like move it up 2 or 3 inches and then go with it, that is what did him in.
No, I mean he was always. Once I saw the replay, yeah, I mean it was obvious like he was gonna go. He was not gonna be.
He was frustrated.
But the thing is, we were winning when he was there. We were winning without him, and then just to fade down the stretch again and let Minnesota back in the series. It feels like Minnesota's wins have been so fluky, but they're still wins. At some point, it's just first 1 to 4. It's not whose wins are most impressive. So the fact that both of the Wolves' wins have come with like San Antonio fading from like the 8-minute mark to the 3-minute mark of the fourth and outplaying them for literally the rest of the game. I mean, although this time I would say the Wolves outplayed
Ant-Man was back.
Yeah, no, Ant-Man was back for sure. I mean, they say he's only at 60%. He looks well. If that's at 60%, then we should all be scared because he looks incredible out there. And I've long maintained as a Spurs fan, I say, Jaden McDaniels, Terrence Shannon Jr., at some point they're going to play down to their averages. Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to stop putting up 20 balls. Jaden McDaniels is going to stop putting up 30 balls. At some point, they're going to play to their averages. But right now, you're getting good contributions from the role players, but I really just think the Spurs, just under 8 minutes, couldn't get a rebound, couldn't buy a basket. And, I mean, there were so many opportunities, and I guess that's why it would have been nice to have Wemby in there, but there were so many times where you finally get a stop from the Wolves, and then they get a rebound. Then you get a stop again, then they get a rebound. And it's just the rebounding, the clutch rebounding, the rebounding down the stretch was horrendous. The playmaking, it was the complete wrong time to go cold. And if you're San Antonio, you're still the favorite in the series, but now you absolutely need to win game 5. And Wemby or not, it just sucked, I think, to see them just throw away game 4 down the stretch.
Yep. And let's look at this. Let's take a quick peek at Anthony Edwards' stats, right? Anthony Edwards exploded for 36 points, right, in game 4. Including 16 of those in the fourth quarter alone, right? Played, you ready for this, Matthew? Played 40 minutes, no minute restriction at all, right? Came off the bench in games 1 and 2, finally started game 3 onward, shot 59% from the field and 60% from the 3. This man's on fire.
No, I mean, they really couldn't do anything with him last game. And it's like he was getting to the basket. He was in his mid-range bag. But then some of those 3-pointers he was hitting just above the break, just like, 2 dribbles into the half court and then taking a 3. Then there was like a fadeaway 3 in there. I mean, he had at one point they showed his stats. They showed his field goals. And I just, it was just his night. It was a magnet ball. And if he's gonna be playing like that, then it's gonna open everything up because Nas Reed can hit shots. Terrence Shannon Jr., has been hitting shots. Let's see if that continues. Jaden McDaniels can hit shots. Julius Randle's a guy, as a Spurs fan, you want the ball in Julius Randle's hands as much as possible because I feel like he's the one that's kind of going into some ISO ball, disrupting their offense, committing turnovers. Well, when Ant's initiating the offense, it's trouble. But, let's force the ball over to Julius. Let's force the ball over to old Mike Conley. Now, he's a smart player, but he's an old player. But we got to find a way to get the ball out of Ant-Man's hands.
But let's look at this, right? But let's compare the two. Not only was Ant-Man hot, so they still barely won by a little bit, right? But look, Nas finished with 15 points, 9 rebounds, right? Rudy Gobert, 11 out of 13. The Sumu hit clutch free throws at 9.8 seconds left, right? But then on the other side, the Spurs guards Dylan Harper and De'Aaron Fox, they each had 24 points. Stephon Castle had 20. So it's not like it wasn't close, right? But it just wasn't enough, right? But how often does Rudy Gobert go 11 to 13? You know what I'm saying? The stuff, little things like that. It was just by a little bit, couple of extra shots that they won.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was Ant-Man. I mean, you look at all the other players on the field, on the court. I mean, even when he wasn't
Matthew,
scoring.
do you realize even with all that, it's like Minnesota, the Wolves, as you call them, the Wounded Wolves, they had to be almost perfect to just
Well,
win by 4 or 5, 6 points.
but you know what? That's the thing is nobody's gonna care. It's first one to get to 4. Nobody's gonna care how they did it. And if you're the Spurs, what you're saying is true.
True.
They had to be almost perfect. But if you're the Spurs, now you have to be perfect and win
Yes.
game 5 because it's not going to matter how almost perfect they had to be to win game 4. They won game 4, and now you have to go out and win game 5 because they're in this series now. And so, yeah, I mean, it sucks to waste that kind of game from our guards where Castle, Fox, and Harper, all three are great on the same day, which, you would think would happen more, but it hasn't happened all that much this year. And it's probably because, one of them always has to get their rhythm disrupted coming out of the game. But to get 20-point games from your trio of guards, and it has to be the game that Wemby gets ejected in the second quarter. You mix those performances from the guards with just a regular Wemby performance, I think we win that game by 15 points. So Wemby, I need him to come out angry. I need him to come out furious, and I need us to just be up 30 points at halftime of game 5.
All right, well, I'm glad you said that, Matthew, because let's look at this. Will Wemby be suspended for game 5, right? Because per the NBA, we're going to get into the rules now. For all of y'all out there, we're going to cover a quick rule book, right? The NBA playoff penalty point system is like this. Flagrant 2 equals 2 points. Suspension starts at 3 plus points. This was his first flagrant foul, so he's at 2 points. It's not an automatic suspension, but the rules state that the league has discretionary powers to suspend if they rule it was excessive danger. What do you think they'll rule in favor, whether Wemby gets suspended or not?
So I think it already came out. The Wemby is not getting suspended. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Wemby's here for game 5. So we're not even worried about that. Yeah. No, we're past that. So, basically he got ejected. So he got ejected in the second quarter. So basically he was suspended for a game and we lost. That's the effect.
Do you blame Wemby for what he did and getting himself kicked out?
No, because they're all just grabbing on him, manhandling him. At some point he's saying, get off me. And, it's maybe they'll think twice about it. Maybe not the smartest thing, but, we're riding with him. And I'm glad I'm glad Coach Mitch Johnson in the post-game interview, he talked about how disgusting it is the way Wemby's handled out there. And he had Wemby's back. Now, whether that's what he thinks or not, I'm glad he came out and had his back because we don't want any chemistry issues as we come down the stretch of the second round. But this game 5 of the second round at home, I think is one of the biggest games in San Antonio in recent memory, definitely of the last 10 years. So I really just need us to come out and just dominate from pillar to post on Tuesday.
Right. All right. Real quick, we're going to touch on, for topic number 4, we're going to briefly touch on the Knicks sweeping the 76ers. What do you, man, at one point I'm watching the game, I look at my wife, I said, can you believe that they're up 40 points? 40 points. And then I think almost, Matthew, was it a whole fourth quarter? I think they basically just had their benches in playing, or maybe it's about 4 or 5, maybe the last 10 minutes of 9-10 minutes of the fourth quarter, but they just basically just like, man, just throw in the bench, man. And even with that, man, they still won by like 30 points, right? Mm-hmm. What happens to Philadelphia at this point? Do they really have the chemistry they need to really be successful, or do they need to break up that team there?
Well, they have a lot, but it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter if Embiid's injured, basically. Because you think about that starting lineup, Paul George, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Kelly Oubre Jr. Talent for talent, there's not many first options better than Embiid. There's not many second options better than Maxey. There's not many third options better than Paul George. Not many fourth options better than Edgecombe. And then, Kelly Oubre at the fifth option. I would say just a, solid player to close out the lineup. So when healthy, that is one of the best starting lineups. Of course, Paul George was gone for 25 games this year. Embiid missed more than half the season. So it's just hard to say. And you just have to say at some point, it will be time to give up on Embiid. But you hate to say it because he really gave them everything against Boston this year. Nobody picked them to beat Boston. And when they went down 3-1, everyone had already wrote the obituary for Philly. So to come back and just give everything you have to win that series. And if you look at it, he is laboring out there. I mean, he is winded. He's injured. There's a couple times where he had wide open dunks and he just put them off the backboard instead because he just didn't even want to get up to dunk. I mean, if this is it for him there, which I don't think it is, I think, I don't know what his contract says, but I haven't heard the noise that this is going to be his last year. But, at some point they might want to move off him. But he really gave everything. I mean, you just can never hate on him again, I think, after that performance he had against Boston. But it just seemed obvious when they got out of that Boston series, they were too beat up. Joel was too beat up. It felt like the Knicks were always going to beat them pretty handily. So I'm just glad they could have that moment against Boston. But I do think they're just a little too injured and maybe getting a little too old to handle the best in the East at this point. Their championship window, I would say, is definitely closed.
All right, who do you think the Knicks have a better chance of beating? Do they have a better chance of beating the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Detroit Pistons? What's the better matchup for them?
Definitely the Cavaliers. I mean, the Pistons are going to be tough. The Pistons were the best in the league. I mean, the best in the Eastern Conference all year. Of course, they came out flat against Orlando, but they've roared back. They were down 3-1. They won the series. They're up 2-1 now against Cleveland. They've looked like they've shored up their weaknesses, and they're getting more contributions from everybody. When it was just Cade, they were one-dimensional, but now I'm seeing all the starters in double digits basically every game. I'm seeing all the starters shooting close to 50%. I'm seeing them get huge contributions from Danish Jenkins, who, if he keeps playing like this, might be a 6th man of the year candidate next year.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're just getting a lot of good work from a lot of their players. I think they're starting to gel again after the wheels almost came off. Maybe it's an experience where the wheels almost come off, and the near-death experience makes you stronger, brings you closer together, because they look really good right now. I haven't checked since we've been on here if they're now they're down 12, so things could get interesting in Cleveland. But I think
you got 12. I got 56-62.
I got 56-68. I got 12.
My stuff. Oh, there it is. I just refreshed. Okay.
But in any case, I think Detroit is strong, and I think Detroit's probably the favorite to make it out of the East at this point.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to topic number 5. Man, Matthew, I don't know if you saw. We just had the lottery, the draft lottery the other day. Who's going to go on what order if they pick? The Wizards got number 1, and number 2 is Jazz, 3 Grizzlies, 4 Bulls, 5 is the Clippers via the Pacers and that whole trade thing. But what do you think with the Washington Wizards landing number 1 pick? They won with the 14% top odds, right? What do you think about him going to the Washington Wizards, right? Because listen, the Wizards has been tanking for like the last 3 years. So is this like the start of their actual rebuild, or do you still think they're at least a good 3 to 5 years away, no matter what?
Man, you add DeBonsa to they're already going to have AD. They're going to have Trae Young. Now, I don't know if those guys are going to want to stay, but that's kind of the most interesting thing you'd have in the district since you had the season of Westbrook and Beal where you barely made the playoffs, but was kind of a fun season. Then before that, you weren't true contenders since Wall and Beal.
Yeah.
And then even at that point, second round exit. But
Yep.
Trae Young's an incredible offensive player. Anthony Davis is an incredible defensive player. DeBonsa is supposed to be pretty versatile, can do a little bit of everything on offense, can create his own shot, can go down low. Wall being a quality defender. So I think it could be interesting. Of course, if you have AD, you always worry about injuries. Then you even wonder about gathering any momentum with him, because at any point the momentum could all go away because he's injured. So, but you have the closest to the sure thing with the number one pick, getting DeBonsa, because I think people aren't too sold on Darren Peterson, because every time I would see him play at Kansas, it felt like everybody on the internet was talking about how he wasn't interested in being there. So that's risky. And Cam Boozer from Duke. We'll see. I think that's could be I think there's some development that's gonna have to happen there. I think DeBonsa is the most NBA ready, and you got to feel bad for Indiana, who, if they had got one of the top 4 picks, would have been able to keep their pick because they traded. And since they fell out of the top 4, they lose their pick completely. So tough time to be an Indiana fan, having one of your worst years in team history. Of course, Halliburton was out and you'd got rid of Miles Turner, but to have one of your worst years in team history and to not even have a draft pick to show for it. But in that trade they made, they do have Ivica Zubac. So some could argue that having your starting center is more valuable than having the 5th pick in the draft. I would certainly listen to that argument, but definitely tough for the Pacers to not even have a pick after having that bad of a season. But hopefully they enjoy Zubac. Then the Kings, who were another terrible team that I watched all year, fell all the way to 7th. So if you're the Pacers and you're the Kings, and we know the league's cracking down on tanking after this year, so it's going to be harder to do. You weren't even rewarded for your tanking because you really don't even have a good lottery pick. So, good for the Wizards, but I don't know what they're going to be able to do with it. It doesn't feel to me like the Wizards have ever been able to build any real momentum, at least since I've existed on this earth.
Right. And you know what, Matthew? Tell me what's crazy is the Pistons are already 60-22. They're in a conference semis right now, right? And these guys, because of these crazy trades that go on behind the scenes, they got 2 first rounders. I mean, how much they have? There's it's almost like there's no ceiling, right? 2 first rounders, especially you only need one of those 2 first rounders to be impressive.
Yeah, man. No, I mean it's the rich get richer, as they say, and then you look around, man, because I'm looking at this mock board. There is a lot of talent in this year's draft. So, somebody's going to get lucky even if they don't have a top 3 pick. I'm looking at like Kingston Fleming Jr. I mean, Kingston Flemings. I don't know that he's a junior. I don't know why that was in my head. From San Antonio, Texas, one of our most hyped prospects to come out of San Antonio. Was great all year at Houston, despite, being so young and having all the expectations on him. He's somebody that I really think is going to shine in the NBA, although it's going to be tough if you go to like a Sacramento or a Brooklyn, a team that does, or even like maybe a Charlotte, but like a team that doesn't have a culture of building young talent. But this is a pretty deep draft, but I think the only sure thing is DeBonsa. And then Peterson will be one of those we'll be able to tell like within the first couple weeks of the season. Because if he's out there getting buckets, week 2, week 3, we know like, okay, you can build everything else. But I'd like to see him getting some NBA buckets before I proclaim him the next best thing. And I think Cameron Boozer will be very, very good, but I'm holding judgment until I watch him in games because, I do think there's a learning curve for a player like him. And whether that's being better in the post or that's shaping up and becoming a better shooter. One of those things he's probably going to have to do better to firmly establish a role on an NBA team.
Right. Got you. All right, let's move on to topic number 6. Paige Bueckers outduels Caitlin Clark in a WNBA opener. Listen, this right here is the first time in WNBA history where both teams scored over 100 plus in a regular season game. Dallas had 107, Indiana 104. They went head to head, right? And Clark missed a deep three with the chance to send it in overtime. Fever actually had 2 chances in the final 10 seconds, but they missed both of them. Let me look at these stats. So Paige Bueckers had 20 points, 8 for 10. Now, this is what makes it so important. 8 for 10 field goals, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, only 1 turnover. Caitlin Clark had 20 points, same as her, but she shot 7 out of 18, 4 for 10 from the 3. She did have 7 assists, 5 rebounds, but also had 5 turnovers. Bueckers actually earned this one, right? If you look at the overall plus minus, she definitely did way better than Caitlin Clark. How do you think this plays out between the two, man? Is Bueckers looking like, I'm not saying that she has the same drawing power as Caitlin Clark, but is she definitely a step above what Caitlin is doing right now? Or is it too early to tell?
Too early. For first game of the season, I want to see a little more, but I am worried about Caitlin and her game just because, man, she came out, she struggled in her rookie year, but by the end, she was one of the top 5 players in the league. She found her shot. She found her playmaking touch. And so while the numbers weren't that great, I mean, she had really, that second half of the season, I mean, she had just dragged the Fever up. Last year, she wasn't very good. She shot 35% from the field, 28% from 3. She was turning the ball over. So when I see her still like just having these deep threes in her bag and shooting 2 for 9, but still taking these deep step back logo threes, I don't love it. I want her to work on her mid-range or work on her first step because, I mean, she's quick. I've seen her get to the bucket. I've seen her get layups, and I've seen her be able to break a defense down and make some good passes. I just wish she would hunt for something else other than some of these step-back threes because I think it's hurting her game. I think she's good enough to where she's probably passing up like a few rim runs. Now, like rim runs is relative in the WNBA. I mean,
Yeah.
she's not going to go punch that. But, like, she's passing up on a few layups, hunting that three-pointer, especially because they're so scared of her three-pointer that if, she's just using a little more hezzies, a little more fakes, and it's easier to say from my seat, but you could see they're all scared of what she can do out there. But I think she needs to calm down. I think she needs to get some stuff at the rim. She needs to work on her mid-range because, yeah, I think Bueckers might start to pass her. If Bueckers is playing efficiently all year and Bueckers isn't turning it over and Bueckers is making the same amount of three-pointers but only shooting half as many, then yeah, that's a problem. And
it is.
I think Bueckers is a real rival for Caitlin, and I just want her to settle down, play her game, turn the threes down a little bit because her first year she was better than all the rookies, and she was better than everybody else in the league except for 3 people. The league is caught up very quickly.
Right.
Her first year, I would have said there was only 3 players for sure better than her. Stewart, Collier, and Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, there's a case that Bueckers is better than her right now. I mean, just if you just watch game versus game and you numbers versus numbers, there's certainly a case. Then, Caitlin's team made it pretty far in the playoffs without her last year, which, it's a good team, so good for them.
Yeah.
But I think CC's got a little to prove. She's my favorite player, so I hope she does it. But I think she's got a lot to prove this year.
Got you. Okay. All right, Matthew. This is our favorite time of the show before we break and go finish watching the rest of Cleveland and then get ready for the Lakers game. The Lakers traded I'm sorry. Cavs come back to win the series right now because I'm looking at the score. That's why I paused for a second. 78. Let me refresh it. Right now, I had 80-64 right now. 4 minutes
Ooh,
left in the third. They're up 16. If they keep this up, all right. So if the Cavs come back to win this series, will it be in 6 or 7?
I'm gonna say neither because they won't come back to win this series, and I will pick the Pistons in 6 no matter what happens tonight.
Oh,
Mhm.
all right. The Knicks, did they win the East Finals? Yes or no? They're
Mm,
on fire right now, Matthew.
they look pretty good right now, and although I'm gonna regret this, especially if they end up losing the night, I'm still picking Detroit over the Knicks in the East Coast
Mm,
Finals.
okay. Beckers finishes the season with better numbers than Clark. Yes or no? Not the better player, but better numbers overall than Clark this season.
As a fan of Clark, I'm gonna say no, just because I'm
Ooh,
thinking hopefully, thinking wishfully.
okay. So no, okay. All
Yep.
right. I know it's too early, right? But Cooper Flag or AJ DeBonta, who's going to be the better pro in about 5 years?
That's so hard to say when you haven't seen a guy in the NBA at all. So I'm gonna go with the one that's proved himself his rookie year, being the best player on a bad team, but leading the way, being the best player on his team. His first year, he was expanding his bag. He was doing a little bit of everything this year. As you know, he's kind of growing up before our eyes. So right now, I'm gonna go with the proven thing. I'm gonna say Cooper Flag, but my answer could change just weeks into the next season.
All right, all right. And last question. JJ Redick keeps his job as Lakers head coach. Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even if they'd lost in the first round, JJ would have kept his job. But I would say since they won in the first round and nobody was picking them against the Thunder, I would say that he is not even on a hot seat. It would take a year of not making the playoffs or maybe getting bounced next year in the first round. I'll say this year he's keeps his job with room to spare.
All right. There you have it. All right, listen, basketball fans out there, man, we want to thank you for coming out, joining us. Listen, the playoffs are it's a lot of excitement going on right now. It is definitely one of my favorite playoff years that I've seen in a while, right? Games that I think weren't going to get swept or getting swept, games that I thought was going to be a sweep, seem like they're going 6 or 7. So this is definitely great. And WNBA is starting back up. So we definitely can't wait for that. We definitely want to get some G League players on here for some interviews. So hopefully, and we're working on that. Hopefully, we can get some G League players on here to do some interviews with us. Matthew, what do you want to say to the fans in closing?
Man, I want to say that no matter what, tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow's a big game. It's one of the biggest games maybe in the last 10 years in San Antonio. The Spurs absolutely need a big W tomorrow if they want to remain one of the favorites to make it to the championship. So I hope everybody's tuned in tomorrow to watch the Spurs.
Matthew, I'm going to say this right before we leave. The way it's looking right now, do you still favor if San Antonio make? All right, let's put it like this: OKC, they sweep the Lakers, right? This would be the second sweep in a row. Do you still favor the Spurs beating them?
Yeah, I mean, we were beating them up all regular season. I think we match up nicely with them. I think we've got the guards to match their guards. And now SGA is the best in the league, but in terms of everything around him, I think our guards add up favorably overall with
Uh huh.
theirs, giving them a slight edge. But I think our post player, Wembenyama, gives us a big edge over Chet and Hartenstein.
Okay.
So I think we're going to be just fine. I think we got the depth. I think we got the players that have enough dog in them. I think the coaching is good. I think this team's
Yeah.
cohesive. But it all starts with winning Game 5 tomorrow because this all goes out the window if you get upset by the Wolves.
Got you. All right. Well, there you have it. Listen, make sure you check us out. Make sure you like, subscribe, share our content, and we will be back Monday. And by Monday, we should have like a whole new series going on by then in the playoffs. Till next time, this is Sean and Matthew. We are signing out.